everybody. We're going to start with our meeting. Welcome, members, and welcome to the AG and the Audit Committee. I'm just going to do some introductions. With me is Mr. Dustin Davids and Mrs. Lizette Kruter. So, members, my name is Philip Christians. I'm chairperson of SCOPA. I'm going to give over to the members for introductions and then to the AG and the Audit Committee. Over to you, members.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Leon van Wyk. I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Afternoon, Chair. My name is Nomi Nkondlo. I'm an alternate to this committee. And sorry, Chair, I'm standing in for Member Lecker because she just had an emergency now of her child.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Johnson, member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Benedicta van Minnen, member Public Accounts Committee.
I'm Thomas Walters. I'm an alternate member on this committee, but I'm here in my capacity today as the chairperson of Police Oversight, Community Safety, Sport and Cultural Affairs. And Chair, it's good to actually meet you in person and not on Zoom. So it's good to see you as well. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Over to the AG.
Thanks a lot, Chair. Good afternoon, Chair and the members. Name is Lutando Mehlumakulu. I was responsible for the audit of home safety.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. My name is Lizo Nzamela. I was responsible for the audit of Western Cape Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and honourable members. My name is Crystal Abdal. I'm a board member at the Western Cape Liquor Authority as well as an audit committee member.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, honourable members. My name is Tasneem Adams. I'm the Stakeholder Liaison Manager responsible for the Western Cape's AG office.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Nicole Benjamin, Manager that was on the Department of Police Oversight and Community Safety Audit. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all those introductions. So we've got the department and also then the liquor authority. So we're going to do the department first, and then the liquor authority. How do you want to do it? Do you want to do the liquor authority first? Department first and then the liquor authority. Okay, let's do it that way. Let's go.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes.
I don't know. It looks like the audit
Thanks, Chair. I'm Leon van Wyk. I'm a member of the Public Accounts Committee. Good afternoon to Minister and to all of the officials and other members as well.
Afternoon, colleagues. My name is Nomin Kondlo. I'm a member of this committee.
Good afternoon, Chair, Ministers, Minister and officials. I'm Peter Johnson, member of the Public Accounts Committee.
Benedicta van Minnen, member Public Accounts Committee and also a permanent member of this committee.
Thomas Walters, well, you've met me thoroughly this morning, so I think I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Minister.
Good afternoon, Honourable Marie, Minister of Police Oversight and Community Safety. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members and colleagues. Hilton Arendse, Acting HOD POX.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Mohammed Friesler, CFO Department.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Perfect Noble, Component Finance Budgets. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chair and members. Yashina Pillay, Chief Director, Security Risk Management.
Good afternoon, members and Chair. I'm David Kutse. I'm the Chief Director for the Secretariat, Safety and Security.
Good afternoon, Honourable Chairperson and Honourable Members. Simeon George, heading up the administration at the Western Cape Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Police Wangongo. I'm the CFO at the Western Cape Liquor Authority. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Crystal Abdal, a member of the Governing Board at the Western Cape Liquor Authority.
Good afternoon, everyone. Marvin Jackson, the Head of Corporate Services at the Liquor Authority.
Good afternoon, Kim Seal, Office of the Western Cape Police Ombudsman.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Fred Watkins, Director, Provincial Security Provisioning in the department. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, members, colleagues. Anne-Marie Marshall, Director of Community Police Relations.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. I'm Gillian Lutz, the Director, Security Advisory Services.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. I'm Amanda Dassel, Director of Policy and Research.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. I'm Razak Lokor at Safety Promotion and Partnerships.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Clarissa Samuels, Financial Management.
Good afternoon, Chair, members and colleagues. I'm Ansaf Mohammed, Director, Strategic Services and Communications.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Jill Daniels, Head of Office at the Head of Department.
Thank you very much. Online, remember people online. I know there's people online.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Blanche Cancross, Internal Audit.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. Ritvan van Rensburg, Provincial Forensic Services.
Afternoon, Chairperson. Gilbert Lawrence, Audit Committee.
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Viadra Simpson Murray, Director, Internal Audit. Thank you.
I think that's everybody now. Thank you very much. Minister, over to you for introductory remarks and then the acting HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think after this morning, there's nothing from my side. Just to say thank you for the committee for being here and thank you for my own department for being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'll be similarly brief. Thank you to, firstly, for the team, Chairperson, in the work that they've done over the years. Governance in this department is at a very high level. And the need to commend our team on the 16th clean audit. That's it from my side, Chairperson. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Anybody from the Liquor Authority, Chairperson, wants to say something? CEO?
Chairperson, thank you very much. Very briefly, thank you for the opportunity of granting the Western Cape Liquor Authority to account for the resources that it has been privy to over the last financial year. And I trust we have accounted for all of those in a satisfactory manner. We will gladly respond to any questions. And then, of course, just maybe if the board member would like to say something, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. George. Just to maybe commend management for achieving very good results with very limited resources in terms of finances, but also infrastructure. So well done to management. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Let me just say again, I'll only give 2 questions per member, and then follow-ups, and then we can go to a second round. So you're only allowed 2 questions, and then we'll do a follow-up after that. We're going to do part C, governance, first. That is page 41 to 52 in its entirety. And then we're going to do part E, 59 to 66. And then we're going to do part F. Part F, the financial statements with the notes and annexures. So we're going to do that fashion. So we're first going to go over to governance, and I'm going to allow members to raise their hands for the first round of questions. Over to you, members. I see Member Nkontlo. Member Nkontlo, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon again to Minister and her team. My questions are on page 119 and page 110. I think the first question is on the departmental risk around the implementation of the safety plan. And I think on the first paragraph, I think it explains.
I'm a bit confused now. Quickly, we're doing the legal authority first.
Oh, sorry. I thought we're doing both of them at the same time.
No, we're doing the legal authority first, and then we're going to do the department, because I'm looking for something here. No, we're going to do the legal authority. So that's why I said page 41 to 52. The governance first. That is what we're dealing with now. And then we're going to go over. Must I give you a couple of seconds just to get you? No questions on governance? Members, no questions on governance, right? Okay. So we're going over to part E, 59 to 66. Members, is the questions on part E? Nkontlo, over to you.
I'm happy that the other members are just accompanying for today. Chair, I just wanted to get some clarity, I think, on the page 64, on the limited bids. I think one would always be interested of what would be the rationale for limited bids. Maybe the department can explain more, because almost I think there are about 7 limited bids that they undertook. And I think on the contract variation, also there, just to get a better sense of what would have driven the entity to sort of extend, and also I think on the ones where contracts had to be modified. So if I can just get more insight about that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's your. Is there any other questions there? I just want to ask a question on page 64 about 64 invoices not paid within the 30 days. That's 64 not paid in 30 days, and then there's in brackets unpaid and in dispute. If you can just tell us why were they not paid in 30 days, and what is the dispute you're referring to, or disputes you're referring to in that. So thank you very much. Acting OTD, over to you, and then you can get other officers to answer as well.
Chairperson, in this case, the CEO of the Legal Authority will be responding to these questions.
Good afternoon, members. With respect to the limited bids, they are mainly for the software licenses, Pastel for HR and for the accounting packages, because we already have the the software installed on our computers, we just renew the annual licenses. So we go for limited bids there because we don't want a new software. And then the other one, the major one, was there's one for also a software where we're developing, and the annual license fees for the Blue Gecko, which is the system we use for the annual license renewals. And then for the variations, so the first one, we're printing T-shirts, and then the main one is the MTN one, which is the 57,000. We'd already got a contract for 24 new inspectors, new junior inspectors. Then we needed additional 3 SIM cards, so that that variation, we just wanted to stick with the same contract, but now we had 3 new SIM cards for other staff members that we needed. So that was the variation there. And then in terms of the invoices, so it's where the top is where the invoice are paid within the 30 days. Then now the bottom, it's where there is a dispute. So when there's a dispute, we go back to the supplier, we query, and then we close that. So as a result of that discussions and closing up the queries, there were 64 invoices that were paid after the 30 days, but all those invoices are paid at the end. Thank you.
Honestly, a follow-up for you? Because the 30 days, yesterday we had a department and I said, it almost blemishes your record because, we always look at the 30 days and sometimes there's just explanatory note to say, all our suppliers were paid in maybe 5 days extra, whatever the case may be. Because as we said yesterday, this is a public document. And when people read this, and then also, when I spoke to the department yesterday, other department, they said, we first look at the big companies because they are sustainable, but it's the small companies that's not sustainable. And if they're not paid on time, it's a problem. So I'm looking, I don't work with this every day. And when I look at 64 companies not being paid, then it's a concern. So I'm just raising that so that, I look through the eyes of the public, and that is what I see, 64 not being paid.
Person, your comments are valid and noted, but can I maybe just assure you that in terms of the value, 286 within the within the context of a total of, let's say, 30 million, it's negligible. But I do understand that maybe it will be useful just to categorize what the rationales or the reasons for that, just to be able to respond to that. Thank you.
Are we done? You got a question, Mnkonzo? You can follow up.
Chair, I would like, I think, as a scoper, perhaps it's a matter that we'll deal with in resolutions, because I think I appreciate that colleagues would always be providing this response that it is negligible. But I think what is negligible to the department in terms of its budget, or the entity in terms of its budget, may not necessarily be for the actual service provider. And I think that for me is what is important. I think also the AG in one had even mentioned, I think it's true, is for the department, not necessarily the entity, how they can improve on that matter by ensuring that they develop some kind of a system that monitors. I think that is something that we'll have to sort of put in, so that the size of the departments and the budgets that they deal with, do not necessarily prejudice smaller companies who may need the money, but they are looked at the eyes of a department or an entity that is dealing with a huge budget. Thanks.
Member Thomas, do you have a question? Thank you.
Chair, I actually think there was a proposal made that it might have been an offhand remark about getting into each one of those situations and categorizing it. That one knows exactly what the situation is. I just wanted to, I'm not a member of the committee, but I wanted to propose to you, perhaps, Chair, that is turned into a committee resolution. The proposal that was made. Thanks.
even if you're not a member of the committee, the fact that you're here, you heard, and we'll put it through. You are a full member of this house, so don't you worry about that. Thank you very much. I think that covers then part E. Let's move over to part F, members. Over to part F. Member van Wyk first. Member van Wyk.
Thanks, Chair. I'm looking at page 76 and 77. We refer to receivables, particularly from non-exchange transactions that are sitting at 2.3, almost 2.4 million. And then on the statement of financial performance under the revenue, we have under those non-exchange transactions, we have fines, penalties and forfeits at 5.8 million. So to me, what it indicates there, we are struggling to collect our fines and our penalties that are being imposed. And I think if we could perhaps find out why that is taking place, because certainly if you've got a fine and a penalty, then surely you shouldn't have a license anymore. So I think that is that one aspect there. And then we perhaps just some comment on is clearly a computer system, some IT system that is being used, which was in the books at a fair amount. A lot of that's been written down now already. But I get the impression that there are still a fair amount of costs going against that, if I've read that correctly. So, you know, to me, when you are spending a fair amount on a computer system, because the proportion that the Liquor Authority earns from application fees and from the various granting fees and licenses is relatively small compared to our government grants and subsidies. So it looks like to me, it's like that's only about 20% of your revenue, whereas you rely on government grants for 80%. So, you know, I'm just looking at that proportionality because, you know, we as government are carrying a big burden of the cost of this industry. And I know we also refer to the fact that the alcohol harms need to be recovered from the industry as such. And to me, that it looks like there's quite a bit of disproportionality here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'm going to give you now, Member Kunwa, just because Member Wyk said, I just want to go to 76 also. Unspent conditional grants and funds to be surrendered. And I know it's note 9, but note 9 only tells me it's unspent conditional grants and receipts, Department of Police Oversight, Community Safety, and Department of Economic Development. If you can just, it only gives me that. So it's unspent conditional grants and funds surrendered, note 9, if you can just make a note of that. Member Nkondla, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. On page 77, I think on the total, I think the deficit under expenditure, if maybe the department can just give an explanation, the agency, sorry, man, to that, and vis-a-vis, I think the difference between 2023 and 2024. So that's my question. I think you've covered me on the unspent conditional grants. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Legal Authority, over to you.
Afternoon, members. I'll start with the fines on page 77. In the past year or so, we've increased our inspectorate capacity, and as a result, the issues of non-compliance have declined quite significantly. Hence, there's a decline in that revenue from the previous year to the of 9 million to 5 million in the current year. So the main reason is the compliance on the license providers in terms of fines. And then in terms of revenue collection versus what we get as a grant, if you go on page 79, we collected on behalf of the Provincial Revenue Fund 53 million, if you see there at the top. And then what we've received from the Provincial Revenue Fund, it's 55 million in terms of the grant received from them. So we are above 90% in terms of what we collect versus what we receive in terms of the grant. And then in terms of the unspent conditional grant, in the previous year, the reason that amount is 5.5 million versus the 900,000 this year. In the previous year, we also had some additional grants we got for capital expenditure, mainly relating to the development of our software. Hence, there was that grant that was higher, and there were outstanding liabilities that we still needed to pay in the previous year. But in the current year, everything was that amount is only relating, the difference is only relating to the operating expenditure. So in the current year, we spent almost all of what we were supposed to spend in the previous year, because we had capital expenditures that were still outstanding, hence that big gap between those two amounts. And then the question around the deficit on page 77. Also in the previous year, we got the grant for the capital expenditure, which is recorded as revenue in our income statement. But in terms of the expenditure, it's not reflected there yet, because it comes in as a depreciation and amortization in the current year, because the assets only start to work in the current year. So hence there's that big jump from 6 million profit in the previous year, and we have a loss this year. So this year we don't have additional grants. We only have our operating expenditure, but there's additional depreciation that is coming out of the capex, but the money we received in the previous year. And also the fines is part of the reasons why now, if you compare to the previous year, profit or loss, there's that major decline in the revenue from fines. Thank you.
Answer. Is there any further questions? Yeah. Wait, member.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, perhaps the department can just provide some clarity in terms of notes to the annual financial statements on page 106 under property, plant and equipment. Just in terms of motor vehicles and office equipment, leased assets, when you refer to leased assets, are we saying it's an asset that was financed, or is it physically leased? And then just in terms of the depreciation, if the department is responsible for taking this loss or expense, is it a leased asset, or is it a sort of a rent to own type of base? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Over to you.
The leased assets, mainly the motor vehicles, we lease them from GMT. So we rent the vehicles from GMT for a period of plus minus 5 to 7 years. Because the useful life of that asset it's sitting with you in terms of the accounting standard, you must recognize that asset as your own in terms of your assets, even though it's still owned by GMT. So it's the normal rental, but because almost they use everything, you take all the recent rewards of ownership of that asset. You must recognize as your own asset in the financial statements. So that is all those assets are the vehicles that we lease from GMT. And then the office equipment is the tablets and the laptops that we also lease, that we rent. Those ones are at the rent to own. We rent to own because we'll buy them from the normal shops, and then after paying them for 24 months, you will own the asset. Thank you.
Upper member Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. just in terms of the motor vehicle, specifically the depreciation amounts, if you are leasing a vehicle, why is the department responsible for the depreciation amounts and not the company where you rent it from? Thank you, Chair.
We are responsible for the depreciation because we're using the asset, and it's us who are using the asset. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and so because the standards require us to recognize it as an asset, we are utilizing that asset to generate income to deliver our service, and so we're matching the expenditure to the income and recognizing the expense.
Thank you very much for that. That answers that. Member Kondla?
Chair, can I check on page 117 that I think is linked to the question on contingent liabilities, and I see that there's a judgment, I think, on the case with about 222,000. So will that be what is contained in the legal fees that one sees have actually gone a steep up from 2023 to 2024? Would that be the sort of the justification for such, or if you can explain that, including on the same page, what are these consulting and professional services that had almost doubled up, what was spent on that item?
Any other questions from members? Is that the only two questions? Liquor Authority, over to you.
Chairperson, with your permission, maybe just in relation to the legal fees here, there was one specific matter that was finalized in the previous financial year, but the bill of course came to us during the current financial or the year under review. It was one very specific matter we refer to as the Benfollow matter. And then in relation to the consulting fees, the big difference within that adjustment has been an exercise which we embarked upon, that is the service provider, which was Ernst & Young, for a structure, organizational design process of the Western Cape Liquor Authority. So that was that explains the difference in the year before and the current figure. So from the 1.6 to 2.7. Thank you.
Does it answer you, Member Kondla? You fine with that? Can we move on to other questions? Is there no other questions? Okay, then is there a question there, Member Kondla?
Let me just check, Chair. The organizational structure you're referring to was the agency trying to reorganize what was behind this exercise that you appointed. And please answer me in context also to page 80, because when one sees your expenditure on COE as an example, I mean, from your approved budget, you had to have an adjusted amount out of that of about 6.5. So I'm trying to understand what exactly is your logic of this organizational design for the agency.
Chairperson, thank you very much. And with your permission, maybe just to start the response by saying that the ask was not for any additional funds in relation to the structure, but the structure basically is informed by a need that since the detachment of the Western Cape Liquor Authority in 2012, from then the Department of Economic Affairs, Trade and Tourism, I think, that there was never a organizational design exercise embarked upon. So what was basically done at the point was a small study to basically detach from that. At that point, there was no support services. The development of the structure, however, over time has been done on an ad hoc basis over time. So over 10 years, you found growth, but the growth was not driven by strategy. It was driven by the need to comply as an entity. Now, that is very different to having a strategic intent for the organization. 5 years ago, we started with the development of a new strategy. It was also at that time that there was concluded by the Western Cape Liquor Authority a organizational design process that it initiated on its own. That process delivered a report. However, it was never implemented on the basis that the ask at that point was for funds. So the funds there was considerable. The ask, if I can just recall, off the top of my head, was in scenarios 1, 2, and 3, suggesting 20 million, 25, 22 million. I think the next one was 50. And the last one was 90 million. There was no ways that we were going to get that kind of support in relation to that. We tried other mechanisms. We then realized that ultimately you're going to have to fund your own organization. But I think let me just link this to what was critical over the last 2 to 3 years. And that was primarily the pressures that were brought to bear on the organization and all other state departments in relation to provincial treasury, the limitation of funds, post-COVID and post-pandemic rationalization that had to take place. There were key indicators or key processes that were required from us. These I point out in the introduction in terms of looking at our allocations that we were receiving, protecting the baselines. So the exercise then fitted nicely into that scenario, because what it then compelled is we now have a strategy. We have now considered the resources we had, and we're looking at our structure in response to that as a strategy now. So it was not, we're not asking new funds, and the ultimate or the complete implementation thereof will still in future happen based on the availability of resources for the organization. So it's actually a very measured response that has been developed over time, but which remains long overdue as far as the Western Cape. To illustrate to you, if you look at the organogram as it stands now, the biggest gap that the organization has is that there's a level of work missing. So you'll find me driving strategy solely in terms of that, but then you have all these functionaries that are then reporting directly to the executive. That is a span that is way too wide, and one that does not take care of the strategic needs of the organization. Chairperson, I trust that will explain.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive explanation. I think that answers that. Thank you, members. I think that's the end of the Liquor Authority. Thank you very much, Liquor Authority. We're going to go over to the department. Thank you very much. You can leave if you wish to. Just give it 1 or 2 minutes for them to leave, and then we'll go straight over to the department. Thank you very much for your time and effort. And keep on with the good work. So thank you very much. We've done all the introductions, so we can go straight into the minister. Acting HOD, just explain to me quickly. I just saw you, when I went through books, you're not in the structure here, but when I saw the accounting officer sign, I saw Mr. Arendse sign. So just tell me, because, acting, you usually come from the department to act. So you're actor from outside.
Indeed, Chairperson, I'm from the Department of the Premier, and I've been requested to act with the department. Previously, it was David Kutsia, but he injured himself, and then they've asked me to step in to act. Thanks.
Noted that, because I looked at the organogram, I saw no Mr. Arendse here, but I see somebody side the accounting officer. So Minister, can we jump straight away? Do you have some opening remarks for the department?
No, you can jump straight away.
Thank you very much. Let's then go. We're going to do governance page page 107 to 123. Is there any questions? We keep it to 2 per member. And then if you have another pressing issue, we'll come to you again. Member Nkontla first, and then Member van Wyk. Member Nkontla, over to you first.
Thank you, Chair. On page 109, the question on the first risk around implementation of the safety plan, one is interested just to understand in terms of that aim to change individual and community behavior in areas that go beyond districts, blah, blah, blah. Just want to understand from the department is that what indicators do you have to actually help you to deliver this particular aim? And secondly, what oversight does the department have over the LEAP program as it's being implemented by the City of Cape Town on your behalf? Thanks.
Member van Wyk.
Thanks, thanks, Honourable Chair. I think I'm sort of covering some of those risk areas from page 109 through to, call it 113, 114, I imagine. If we look at this department in terms of revenue has gone backwards from 767 expenditure in 22-23. That has been reduced to 711 now in this year, 23-24. However, when one looks at the risks and the risks that are identified in terms of, one just picks up various aspects here of the whole safety and security situation that we have within the province. And you also have a high vacancy rate that you refer to. So, one understands all of that. And then I suppose the question that I ask myself is, how is one then efficient? How is one effective? And how does one try and improve the reach that you have given these limitations? And then in addition, what you are really the conduit of funding that then goes to LEAP on the one side. I also noticed that there's a fair amount of money that goes out that gets paid to security under the term of properties. In other words, outside service providers that are then securing the provincial government's buildings. And then there's also within your expenditure, there is that transfer that goes to Liquor Authority, for instance. So I think just trying to get an idea of how you are managing within that situation and what the outlook then looks, given probably a tighter security situation where, in fact, more money should be spent. So those are just my observations that I have right now.
Thank you very much, HOD. And Minister, you can chip in whenever you want to, but I'll then give to the HOD, and if they've not given the right answers, you'll give it afterwards. Okay, that's okay.
So just in terms of the first risk, our ability to lead implementation, and I think, remember, it also links to your question. So there's a lot of work that we need to do in this space. So the focus that we have now is to redo our strategy, and we've had a discussion on the redoing the strategy, but it's also about how do we use the levers out there, outside of this department, that we can work with. So we need to work with education, we need to work with social development, we need to work with cultural affairs and sport, and see how we can effect synergies by working with them. So we need to work smarter, not harder, and we need to look at how do we really bring all of those together to provide a whole of government approach to improving safety. There's also the collaboration agreement that we have with the city, and SAPS will also contribute to it. We will effect efficiencies, but we will be stronger together, because just tomorrow we'll be sitting with our session to look at what each one brings to the table and how we're going to improve safety. So from that perspective, I understand that our funding has been reduced, but the requirements on our are increasing. But the key is not to try and do it alone, but make sure that we collaborate with other departments and other partners, and even bringing partners such as correctional services. And the key area that we need to focus is on is co-funding by the private sector, because there's many private sector entities that would like to partner with us, and that we just need to leverage off it. So that is where we'll be how we'll be dealing with leading the department. One key thing that we will be looking at is having that central coordination unit within the department, having a very strong central coordination that can really make sure that we have the other departments bound to what we need to do. And that's why the collaboration agreement is also so critical, and the action plan is critical. Of course, in that collaboration agreement, we will be binding the rest of our departments. We're the proxy for the province, but we'll be guiding other departments also. The oversight over LEAP, we do have oversight over LEAP, and we have regular engagements with LEAP, and even the deployment of the LEAP areas, that we have a key say in. There's no decision on where LEAP gets deployed without us being involved in that process. So there's a very good relationship in that regard as it relates to LEAP and the reporting that they need to submit to us based on the transfer payment agreement and the requirements in the transfer payment agreements. There are certain reports that they need to submit to us. And as I said, we also have the qualitative discussions with them apart from just the report that we receive from LEAP. Chairperson, I hope I've responded to those questions specifically, unless there's further follow-up questions.
Is there follow-up, Leonard Contra? Is there follow-up?
Yes, Chair. I hear. I think my second question on oversight. I missed the indicators that you guys have to realize the aim of the safety plan. Perhaps you spoke crossly. I could not pick up what you said. If you can just repeat and in line with how are you, if there are existing indicators,
Thanks, Chairperson. Chairperson, there's no specific indicators on our side. What we do as a collective with the city, with SAPS and an entity called the Hans Seidel Foundation is to manage the success of the LEAP areas depending on what the data says. So we'll have regular engagements and we'll determine how we're going to deploy LEAP and where we're going to deploy LEAP. What we have found now is that we need to intensify our efforts. Based on the data, we realize that we need to intensify our efforts in the high-risk areas, and that's why we reduced the number of LEAP areas from 13 to 6. So in terms of our indicators, it's about the process of making sure that there are LEAP officers here, and we prescribe a minimum number of LEAP officers as an indicator. But the deployment is done with us in consultation with us, and the decrease or the increase of the LEAP areas, that's done in consultation with us, and at a very high level we deal with that, Chairperson. So, Member Konlo, I understand that you want specific indicators. We would like, as part of our province's strategy, we would like to reduce the murder rate and we'd like to reduce violent crimes, and that's why we'll have the LEAP program to supplement the SAPS resources. However, that is proven to be a challenge in some areas based on the stats that we received in the first quarter, which show that we went backwards. So now that's why we're looking at reassessing. We need to be agile here, Chairperson. We need to reassess and see how we need to reassign those resources. And that's what we've done.
Okay. If we want to maybe do resolutions afterwards, we can do that. Member Kodlo, then maybe we can get something in writing and so on. Is there any other questions on governance? Can we go over to part E, the PMFA compliance report? That is 165 to 170. If I can just say, I just said it to the Liquor Authority page. I see you've got your 169, your late or non-payment supplies, and see you've got an explanation at the bottom there. So it makes it easier. So I don't have to ask that question. You've given a description there. It helps. So now you know what's happening. So you got me on that one. So well done on that one. Is the questions, Member Contra?
Chair, perhaps it's a matter of understanding. Can I just check on the 3.2 page 170? And I remember, I think yesterday when we're dealing with the Premier's office, and part of what I think also was confirmed by the CFO, if not the HOD, that part of what is the prescript is that if you have to, expand a contract, you have to do it within a 15% of the original contract. So my question then, unless I'm reading this incorrectly, if colleagues can just explain, because when I read you look security services, the original contract value was 9.5, and the value of the expansion is almost 11. So can I just have an understanding when I just look at these numbers versus that principle of a 15%? Thanks.
Thank you very much for that question. Any other questions? Is that fine? Can we go over to the department, HOD?
Thanks, Chairperson. Our CFO will respond to those.
Thank you, HOD and Chair. In response to the member's question, the security services at the zones is, you must remember that security is as a contract, it's managed centrally by Provincial Treasury. So what happened in this instance was that Provincial Treasury was not in a position to for the province be able to finalize a new contract because the term had ended, and then as a dispensation to the departments, they gave us options of either extending and expanding existing contracts, or to go on new departmental procurement processes to do the security tenders. What happened in this case was that, yes, we took out a new contract for a year, and that's the contract that we currently busy with in the financial year, but it's under the dispensation of a variance of the provincial contract. The provincial framework for procurement of contracts, which is at a much higher level than a monetary level than just the portion that relates to this department. So they are responsible for the entire framework of the province, including education, health, which is security contracts for hospitals, schools, and the likes. So that is the quantum within which the 15% is calculated here. So ideally, if I had to just guess, I'd say that the entire spend for security for the province is in the region of 200 to 300 million per annum, and it's against that basis that the department was able to expand within the 15% variation.
Thank you, Benekolda.
Chair, perhaps what we could ask is for the department to put this in writing in all of those contracts, because you see, for me, I think it would be important to understand exactly what the colleague is raising, because now he's expanding. I think is what he's saying, that the frame from which this expansion of this contract was done is not on the, if I'm hearing him correctly, is not just on the mere departmental budget. So if that is the case, I'm not sure what provision is he referring to. I'm not in the department, I'm not a bureaucrat, you see. So I would like to understand things according to what policy says. So if we can put that in writing, and obviously we can then verify such with the provincial treasury with the necessary policy provisions that enable such. Thanks.
Thank you very much. We'll do that in the resolution. We'll do that when we, as a committee, have in-committee discussions. Okay. Can we move on, members? Let's move on to the financial statements. Is the questions, members? If I've got one or two questions here, but I'll keep financial statement, members. Member Nkontlo, over to you.
I want to start with the question we raised with AG in the absence of the department regarding the issue of the EPWP payments. And I think at the time, the AG, I think in their report, make reference to, I think, somewhere an improved control environment regarding, I think, the records of the EPWP. So one would like to understand from the department itself, to just give more context about what could have happened, because our understanding of from what the AG is saying is that at a certain point we had to bring in, there was an issue of not being able to appoint a service provider, and then you took over the function, and then you also had to get a service provider. Perhaps if you could just take us through of what could have been the issues around that. And safe to say, I think also one was picking up from, I think, the book itself about some challenges you mentioned as a department regarding funding of the EPWP itself. So I just wanted to start the chair before I go into the actual pages in the financial statement. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. I'm just going to add to that quickly before the AG said, so Member Nkontlo explained now it was one contractor, and then they extended the contract, and then the department took over because you didn't have a contractor, and then you got a new contractor. But there was a lot of problems with no time sheets. So internal control was really bad, no control of stipends, those type of things. So there was a lot of red lights with stipends not being paid properly, no time sheets, and that is what Member Nkontlo, what we heard. So that was a major red flag. If you can just start with that, thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson and member. So what happened was that we had in the year under review, or in the previous year before the year under review, we had an NGO called CAMISA who was administering our EPWP payments. And these payments are between 800 to 1,000 payments, individual payments that needs to be made to beneficiaries on a monthly basis. They are placed at placement institutions where there's a supervisor who manages the day-to-day let's say HR administration of the individuals, and that HR administration includes providing the service provider or the department with timesheets. So when the NGO was administering that, all timesheets would go to the NGO. Department would pay the NGO for services rendered, which included the disbursement of that funding. But what happened when that contract expired and the department took over that function was that in the handover, we initially received I mean, for lack of a better word, it was a corrupted database where placement or beneficiaries' placement did not reconcile with supervisors' timesheets and sign-offs of where the individuals actually were. So for the first 3 months then, because of potential reputational damage to the department of not effecting any payment, the accounting officer gave us a deviation letter where we could pay everyone on a database as received from the NGO, just to ensure that people were paid. That happened for about 3 months, after which we were able to reconcile and get the actual beneficiary list as well as placement, let's say, the accurate database completed, and then we did it on a normal basis. So it was for 3 months while the department was doing the 1,000 payments per month. After the reconciliation was completed, we were able to then run with it on our own and have an accurate payment schedule of all of the beneficiaries, irrespective of where they were placed. Subsequent to that, we've now again appointed an auditing firm, next year SABT, to then provide our service, to provide that service for the department. And similar teething problems were had, but no deviation was required in that matter. And we have put in the controls in terms of as we sit here currently, member, our internal audit team is busy auditing all of the payments up until September of this financial year with the current service provider, just for accuracy and completeness. Thank you.
Follow
up. So when you had this corrupted database from CAMISA in the first 3 months, what then did you do as a department? Do you still kept CAMISA whilst you were taking the duty of CAMISA in terms of you guys now working on that database yourselves as the department? And how was CAMISA appointed if they were unable to produce a credible database as your implementing agent?
Wait, I'm going to add up to that quickly. Just add up to that. If the contract did not expire, you would have never found out that there's a corrupted database. That is what I'm finding out. If you only found out because the contract expired. So what is your due diligence? While you would have not, according to me, you must explain to me. I don't think you would have picked it up, but you only picked it up because of the expiry of the service provider. So can you just tell us why did you pick it up sooner?
Chairperson, not necessarily true. We have had audit teams with CAMISA even while the contract was ongoing, similar to what we're doing with the current service provider. But I think that in the handover process from the NGO to the department, that things became a bit corrupted as the information was transferred in that transferal process. Yes, it's a learning lesson for us. And that's why we've changed our audit approach now with the current service provider to be more thorough. We're doing full population tests instead of sampling at the service provider's premises. And yeah, that I think, well, I know that is how it happened. Thank you.
Answer Member Colton's question. Repeat that question.
Oh, okay. Apologies, member. If you can maybe. Apologies. So if you can, sorry, I must. No. Sorry, no. When the contract expired and the department took over, our internal staff from the line and from finance processed the payments, and CAMISA was no longer paid for the service provider.
Okay, thank you. Can we move on to the next set of questions? Member Control.
Thank you, Chair. Page 188 and page 189. And this for me relates to one of the issues in the governance as a risk that the department, I think, speaks about in terms of austerity, in terms of their organizational structure that is not necessarily speaking to its mandate. And I'm trying to understand this underspending due to slow filling of posts, internal promotions, and staff attrition. If you can just tell us more, what's going on there by the department? Why are you slow in filling in post? And what is the cause of staff attritions? And I think my second one, Chair, would be the less funds required for EPWP project. There's an underspending there. Maybe also if colleagues can just speak about that to just give more insight. Thanks.
No other questions? Thank you. Over to you, HOD.
Chairperson, the underspending on the CO is because of the austerity measures that came into being last year mid-year. So the process for filling posts has changed at that stage. We needed to go through the Premier's department, the Department of the Premier, in order to get approval for posts filled. So even posts that were in the WAS had to be stopped and had to go through that process where you need to get concurrence from the Premier's office and the Premier specifically before you could fill posts, and that received approval recently. So that causes a delay. The whole issue of attrition is when people leave, they pass away, or they exit, or they retire. And this, looking at the age of the employees of this Western Cape government as a whole, we have an aging staff. So that will be quite huge over the next few years for all of the departments. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Can I just ask maybe the question when filling of posts, because you don't have a HOD and you don't have, I think, another chief director post vacant. Is that advertised, and are you busy filling those vacancies?
I'll respond to the chief director's post. Minister will respond to the HOD post, Chairperson. So when it comes to the chief director's post, that post is part of an investigation, a provincial investigation on the smaller departments as to whether they actually require that chief director's post. So we need to wait until that investigation is concluded. So up until that stage, we won't be able to fill that CD post. The HOD I'll leave to Minister.
Minister, you remember I was part of this committee and Advocate Belay was the HOD, and we knew about that move long time ago. And it's very strange that the HOD position is not filled.
Chairperson, there've been a process with interviews, and none of the applicants, applicants qualified for that, and we will re-advertise. We do headhunting, and under correction, it will be advertised on the 11th of October, and then we start the process again. Thank you.
Okay. Is there follow-up, HOD?
There was the rest of the question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair and Member. Just with regards to the decrease on the EPWP or the less funds required for EPWP, there was an attrition rate, like with staff. There's people who leave the program or the project as well. And also because the function was being performed in-house for a fair period of the financial year, there was no management or service fees that we had to pay a service provider in that regard. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that response. Members, next questions? Member Kondlo? Member Alders, do you see your hand? No. Okay, Member Kondlo?
My last one is on 192 on the surrendered funds to the PRF. Just want to know what were these funds earmarked for and why they are not spent as opposed, or even a rollover for them, depending what were they earmarked for.
Ask maybe just two questions. 207, I see contractors has increased significantly, and also entertainment has almost doubled there on page 207. If you can just ask that. Members, is there any other questions? And then foreign travel on 209 went up quite significantly. 209 foreign travel went up quite significantly. Members, any other questions? Then I'm going to throw another one in. Overpayment on 215, overpayment, salary overpayment, and then bursary debt. A double payment also. There's a double payment also there. So if you can I just went through it quickly. So I think you got that. Members, any other questions? Okay, department, you can answer.
Thank you. Chairperson, through yourself again. The voted funds to be surrendered, that was as at end of financial year underspent. It was made up of of our COE, savings on the COE, and well, largely as a result of COE due to the rate at which posts were being filled. So that's the amount that we gave back to Provincial Treasury out of the voted funds that was allocated to the department. On page 207, Chair, your contractors question from 396 to 828. Am I getting that one right? Am I putting out anything? Can I ask a friend, Chair? We just busy. Okay, we'll get that one for you while we're looking it up, and then you had another one also on. Oh, okay. The entertainment, I think that well, this is where at a time where more of our staff was moving more into the communities again, and as you know, SMS as well as MMS members get an entertainment allowance, and these costs relate to them doing that type of entertainment, the personal entertainment. You had another question, Chair, sorry, which I missed. 215. Okay. 209, foreign travel. Yes, Chair, that was for travel. 723. Oh, the 21. Oh, this one, yeah. The impairment of receivables, double payment. This, I think, this was for a double payment with regards to a salary, Chair, which was eventually recovered. As you can see, these cases went to state attorney for write-off, but the double payment specifically, we can give you more detail on, but this particular one, okay, can I reserve my right on that rather, Chairperson? We'll have to get a proper answer for you on that. What pages? The same one from 14. Okay, these are staff members, Chair, that renege on their bursary obligations that are then required to pay back whatever the department has paid the learning institutions for that time period. Thank you.
So the contract is more in terms of the travel safety to.
Chairperson, can I ask Mr. No? No.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just in relation to the contractors, we had a project safety tourism. We transported the EPWP workers from Wells Street here up to the mountain. So we had to pay that contractor in terms of bus services. That falls under contractors. That's why there's a jump. Thank you.
Members, is there any other questions on the financial statements? Is that it? Member van Wyk looks, he had a long day. Okay, that's it, members. Then I'm not going to prolong. We're going to close. And like Member Johnson wasn't here yesterday. Member Johnson, I usually ask a member to do the thank you, so you'll have the honor. Member van Wyk had the honor to do the thank yous yesterday. You'll do the department the thank yous on behalf of us. Over to before you do that, the minister and the HODs is going to do closing remarks. I'm just warning you that you prepare yourself 10-minute speech. Okay, over to you.
Dankie meneer die voorsitter. Eerstens wil ek net sê vir Ons eie officials, ons eie amptenare, baie dankie vir al die werk en ure. Het was nie maklik nie en hulle doen dit so gemaklik en baie dankie vir ook vir julle en vir Dustin. Thank you so much.
Chairperson and members, thanks so much for the engagement and thanks so much for the questions. And we really do appreciate the opportunity to account for what we've been doing, and then to the team members here, and then also specific thanks to the former HOD, Yasina Pillay, for a brilliant job that she's done during that period, Chairperson, and we need to acknowledge that. The 16th consecutive clean audit, well done to the CFO and his team and the rest of the department. Thanks so much, Chairperson.
Member Johnson.
Thank you, Chairperson. As the Minister addressed us in Afrikaans, I've actually never had the opportunity to speak in my mother tongue in this house. So, Voorsitter, Minister, HOD, and alle officials, thank you so much for presenting to us today, and thank you for the spirit in which all of the questions from the committee was answered. From the Public Accounts Committee, we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Chair.
Baie min Afrikaans gewees daar, jy wat in jou moedertaal gepraat het, ek verstaan dit nie.
Chairperson, if I may, I saw Memo Nkondlo. She's very close to me, so I decided to go with the English.
Thank you very much, Minister and HOD and the officials. Thank you very much. It was a good session. Members, we'll just stay behind to do the resolutions, and when we're done, thank you very much.
Sorry, Ms. Kluter.
Members, Mr. Davids is going to read the resolutions. If you need to add, you can add. And there is refreshments at the members' lounge. There's refreshments there. Please don't leave. Otherwise, you will be billed for fruitless and wasteful expenditure. Member Mavik, you're guilty already of yesterday. Okay. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Through you, honourable members. Chair, I've captured some potential resolutions and requests for information. The first one, Chair, is from the Western Cape Liquor Authority. It goes on page 64. Chairperson, that is basically the same resolution you made yesterday to the Department of the Premier, where you basically indicated they must have a note, explanatory note for the 30 days, how many days after the 30 days they have paid invoices. So, Chair, I'm basically in the Scoper report, I'll make that a transversal resolution to all of the departments in the introductory statement, Chair. Chair, then there's a resolution for the Western Cape Liquor Authority to put in a mechanism regarding payments after 30 days. That's also a resolution for them to put in place, Chair. Then for the department, Chair, Memon Kondlo on page 109 spoke about the first risk. So there was a resolutions that the department come and just brief us on the risk. And Member Van Wyk also spoke to that from page 109 to 114, that the department come back just to give us an in-depth briefing on the risk and what they are doing to manage those risks, Chair. And then on part E for the department, page 170, table 3.2, Member Nkondlo asked for a request for information on those contracts, service providers, and then Scope must basically just engage Provincial Treasury on those contracts once the department has submitted it, chairperson. Chairperson then just basically a request for information on the PNPA, which is on page 215, that we just end off on that overpayment, chairperson, of 55,000 rand. Just request information that they just explain what that overpayment was about, chairperson. That's basically it, Chair.
Any additions? The EPWP is in there, no? The later risk, yeah.
Yes,
that's a risk.
EPWP is in there, chairperson. More context, etc. And then the time sheets, the statements not paid properly, etc. So that's also a resolution, Chair.
Is there any additions? Member Johnson?
Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of my question, the Western Cape Liquor Authority on page, I think it was 106, if I remember correctly. Just give me a second. Yeah, page 106, the notes to the financial statement, note 6. I think Dustin recorded it through you, Chair.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the motor vehicles and the office equipment, the leased assets, and the depreciations around those assets, which I think just request for more information on that. Thank you.
So then are we going to ask them just for, just as a RFI request for information, document, member? Or must they come brief us?
I'm not sure if I'm not sure if it's entire presentation, but it just doesn't make sense, the entire concept. And if it's an accounting sort of way of accounting for a expense, I know that's a possibility, but it just doesn't seem logic.
Chair, can I do this from the administrative point of view? Ask them for the documentation submitted to the committee, and if the committee is not happy with the answer, then ask them for a briefing on the information submitted.
Member Thomas?
Yeah, I agree with that approach. I think the documentation should include copies of those leases, that you actually look at what it says. Thanks.
Van Wyk?
Look, this is just something for the committee as such. You know, the comment that I made, that we've got a lot of grants going into that liquor authority and a relatively little revenue that they are generating from these licenses and the fines and the penalties and so forth. And you then ask yourself, you know, is that not out of balance? So it's really perhaps we should ask them, you know, what is that really equitable as such and fair, that there's so much grant money goes and relatively, in other words, all the license fees that are being paid and the permits that are being paid, are they in line with what making them economically viable? I don't know.
Member Thomas, you almost probably follow up in your standing committee with the HOD posts and those type of things, you know, because they couldn't find a suitable candidate. Now they're headhunting. So we'll leave that to your standing committee. Okay. Members, there's nothing else? There's nothing else. There's refreshments at the back. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.